Hey folks, this is Kelani, as we work our way through our checklists for the week, making sure we get the world boss done and perhaps re-rolling for some more AP, maybe working our way through another Island Expedition weekly quest, and probably knocking down a few raid bosses along the way. You'll probably end up spending quite a lot of time on one character. Focusing on a main is always pretty rewarding. All of your game time goes into one character so you can keep up to date with pretty much everything. But sometimes the itch just has to be scratched, and you absolutely have to find out what it's like to play a Death Knight or a Demon Hunter or a Mage. Playing alts has always been a huge part of the game for me because I love to play around with different playstyles, and I really enjoy being able to cover any role with various characters. For most expansions, I've been an altaholic, I admit it. That's probably not going to change this time around, but leveling through the quests in each zone over and over again can be quite tedious, especially in BFA when we don't really have much choice when it comes to cutting stuff out. We only have 3 zones if you're wanting to stick to one faction, so chances are you're going to see a huge amount of overlap while leveling up different characters. Well, thankfully there's a few other ways you can level which don't have anything to do with questing. So whether you want to take an alt from 110 all the way to 120 without touching a single quest, or whether you just fancy a break for a level or two every now and then so you can change things up, here's a few ways you can level quickly in battle for Azeroth without questing, which are all perfect for those alts you know you want to level. As a quick little preface, there's a few things you should know about if you really want to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to leveling. Rested experience is going to make a huge difference in your overall leveling speed. If you haven't logged onto your characters since BFA launched, you should absolutely do so. Your alt should ideally have a full rested experience bar to speed up your 110 to 120 adventure. If you don't have rested XP, everything is just going to take longer and there's not really anything you can do about it. While our heirlooms don't work past level 110, there is a new gem which jewel crafters can make which provides you with a 5% experience bonus. That's pretty much the only bonus experience you can get your hands on for 110 to 120, so be sure to pick up one of these insightful rubelites and slot it into one of your sockets. If you don't have any sockets on your gear at 110, you can go onto the auction house and look for some rings pretty easily. Crafted 110 rings might be a little more expensive right now, but there should be plenty of green rings which jewel crafters will be crafting to help them level up. They're typically very cheap, but they do require level 111, so you wouldn't be able to use your gem right away, but at least you only miss one level. Snatch up one of those rings, pop in your experience gem, and remember not to take it off until you're either done leveling or you find another socket to put your experience gem into. You can only have one experience gem at a time, so don't worry about picking up more than one. Before we get into the leveling methods, bear in mind that everything in this video requires you to get through the intro section at the very least and on to Kulturas or Zandalar, which should be easy enough if you've done it already, because you can just skip over absolutely every quest in the introduction, providing you've done it once. Just make sure you talk to your faction NPCs before joining the Battle for Lordaeron scenario to skip that, and after you pick up your Heart of Azeroth you can also skip over the rest of the story which introduces you to Zandalar or Kulturas. Easy peasy. The first way in which you can level without having to quest is by hopping into the normal version of Island Expeditions. As long as you unlock them on your main character, you can queue into normal islands on any other character which is above level 110. The best part of this is that the unlock is account-wide and isn't faction-specific, so if you wanted to level up a character on the Alliance, you could hop into islands whenever you wanted. Island Expeditions recently received 2 major buffs. The first was to their experience granted to players below max level, hence the sudden interest in running them for leveling up an alt, but they also have the chance of receiving all of their rewards increased significantly. This includes the mounts, pets, and gear. So while you're running your island expeditions to level up from 110 to 120, or whatever level you fancy at the time, you can get any of the rewards on offer as well. If you want some of the mounts or pets but you don't want to run the islands repeatedly on your main character, this is a fantastic middle ground. 2 birds with 1 stone type of deal. You can even get the 310 bind on equipped pieces of gear to either sell on the auction house for a few gold or to use when your character hits 120. So you won't really gear up while running islands, but you should have a good chunk of gear waiting for you at max level if you do a whole bunch of these. You also get quite a lot of AP for a low level character anyways for every island you run. 150 AP I believe it was for each normal island completed, plus the chance of getting the 700 AP quest items. Those quests should make up for some of the lost AP from not churning through the story quests, though you could always go back and do the key quest later on if you really wanted to. The main attraction of leveling through island expeditions isn't necessarily the rewards though, which is pretty shocking considering you can get anything on the island's loot table, it would seem, but leveling through islands is actually really fast. At 110, a normal island rewards about 20% of a level, so after 5 islands you should ding 111 pretty easily. Running an island was taking me between 5 and 8 minutes depending on the group and how much attention everyone was paying towards the Azeroth markers on the map. If you get a really good group, or you even set up a group of 3 friends yourself, you should be able to clear islands pretty easily in 5 to 6 minutes. As you level up, you're going to need a few more islands for each ding, but even at 10 islands per level, you could still manage that in just over an hour with the wait times included. It's not the fastest you're ever going to level, but for the amount of effort involved, it's a pretty fantastic speed. And unless you're absolutely going ham on your questing, min-maxing every single step, it's probably still just as fast as questing. You also don't have to worry about your class or spec because islands take 3 players regardless of all that nonsense. You don't have to be a tank spec to get an instant queue. Everyone should be able to hop in more or less instantly, so there's very little downtime unless you decide to take a break. It looks like War Mode does give a bonus towards the experience from island expeditions, at least that's what it says on the table as you queue up, so be sure to turn on your War Mode just in case. It's not like you're going to see any real alliance or horde anyways. The second method of leveling up without questing is definitely quite a bit slower but far more profitable. Gathering nodes give a decent chunk of experience, especially if you're well rested. I would personally recommend taking herbalism over mining, but if you really want to mine then nobody's going to stop you. Heck, you could even pick up both, but you're going to see better results if you just stick to the one, and herbing will go a lot faster when compared to mining, especially if you have a sky golem. The main reason to level up through gathering isn't necessarily to level quickly, it's more about gathering up a whole bunch of trade goods to use for your mains, potions and flasks for your weekly raids or Mythic Plus dungeons, or to sell if you would rather have the gold. The leveling up quickly part just kinda comes as a nice little bonus. Be sure to pick up a Zandalari Herbalism or Mining Enchant for your gloves so you can go even faster. If you have a bunch of alts you're wanting to level, this could be even more lucrative. Gathering is pretty good experience when you get decently lucky with finding gathering nodes and you have rested experience. If you don't have rested, your XP gain is slashed in half. So if you have multiple alts that you want to level, grab Herbalism on all of them and go out herbing until you run out of rested experience. Swap to a different alt and do the same thing again, leaving your first alt to gather another good chunk of rested before you hop on them again. This isn't an amazingly quick way to level if you want the character at max level right now, but it does end up being decently quick when you look at their time played. This method also has the benefit of making you a bunch of gold or covering your consumables for the week, while allowing you to level up several alts all at once without having to dump an enormous amount of time into actively leveling them up. Of course, you could just pick up Herbalism and pick all the flowers you see while going to do the quests as per usual, but then you'd be questing and that's not what this video is about. While I'm pretty sure War Mode does provide you with the benefit to the experience gained from gathering nodes, if you're out in the world on a lower level character just wanting to pick some flowers, turning War Mode off would allow you to do your own thing without having to worry about fighting over herbs or getting ganked out of the blue. And then we also have dungeons. A lot of people seem to have skipped over this entirely as a leveling option, but you do get quite a good chunk of experience for completing a random normal dungeon. It's about the same as the dungeon quests themselves when you get them later on, so if you pick up all 4 dungeon quests and then randomly queue into normal dungeons, you can get over 200k experience for a single dungeon. That's more than a level if you get them all done, which is actually how I typically go from 119 to 120 with a quest or 2 to spare most of the time. You can also get a few pieces of gear here and there which scale to your level, so you can equip them immediately. Now, while I would say spamming dungeons is a fairly quick way to level, it's not going to be as fast as questing in general for a DPS because you're going to have to wait for every dungeon queue. So dungeons should definitely be something which augments your leveling rather than something to spam over and over again until you hit max level, unless of course you are a tank. Tanks should get instant queues, healers should get more or less instant queues too, which means that spamming dungeons becomes way more viable. The other problem with spamming dungeons though is that they only reward a little more experience than the recently buffed islands, and you can probably run 2 to 3 islands in the time it takes to run a single dungeon if you don't have a group that's smashing the dungeons. If you're getting a little tired of islands, maybe try a dungeon or 2 to change things up. You should also be able to pick up the Motherlode or Tordagor dungeon quest at 115 without doing any questing, so at that point a random dungeon or 2 might be worthwhile for the chance to double up that experience, but you're looking at a 1 in 4 chance, which isn't too great. If you want speed over anything else, stick to islands until they get nerfed. If you want a nice change of pace, maybe do a dungeon or 2. If none of these options seem particularly enticing right now, that's okay. If you can wait until patch 8.1 rolls around to level your alts, we should be able to level even faster with even less effort thanks to the new incursion system. I say it's a new system, but it sounds like it's going to be the Legion invasions with a different coat of paint, which is absolutely fine by me. The invasion system was a fantastic addition to the game, and I was wondering if they would do something similar. With the incursions, the world quests in a certain area will be replaced by special event world quests related to the incursion, where you'll fight back the invading forces of the enemy faction. So where do alts come into this? If you didn't level to the Legion invasions in the last expansion, basically you were able to clear the map of the world quests as a non-max level character, and Ian already confirmed that characters between 110 and 120 will be able to take part in these new incursion world quests in 8.1, and for clearing off every world quest, you got about just above a level. Thanks to the beauty of the group finder, clearing out those world quests usually took about 20 to 30 minutes, so that's 20 to 30 minutes per level every time these events come up. That allows you to level up every single alt you have at the same time over a period of a few weeks. Do the world quests on one character, log over to the next and do them on that one, rinse and repeat until you run out of alts or you run out of patience, whichever comes first. This works sort of like gathering with rested experience. The actual leveling is spread over a few weeks, but the time spent playing is absurdly low. Hopefully incursions will help give our alts the boost they need to get to max level quickly and easily. While not having to go through quests again might sound like an amazing idea, you should know that you might have a longer list of things to get done at max level if you don't go through the story quests. You should probably still get through the war campaign for the artifact power and to unlock various other pieces of content, but you don't actually need it for the mythic dungeons as far as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure you still have to go through your first few parts of the war campaign to unlock world quests, but you shouldn't need the friendly reputation if you've already unlocked world quests on your main character. You also probably won't have any flight pass, so you'll have to run around and pick those up to make world quests significantly easier, which includes flight pass for the opposite faction's island. Right now your reputation with Champions of Azeroth won't carry over, but when patch 8.1 hits, you shouldn't have to worry about grinding rep for your amulet's item level upgrades, so whether or not you want to wait for that is up to you. In 8.1, if you have Revered on your main character, any alt which hits max level should be able to get all of the item level upgrades as soon as they hit level 120. Leveling without questing can also potentially leave you further behind when it comes to gearing up and artifact power, but it shouldn't take too long to catch up with those. Personally, I've been leveling through island expeditions and dungeons with a little bit of gathering on the side when I get absolutely bored to tears of the islands. Dungeons are a nice break from the monotony too, but I feel like islands are just so incredibly efficient that I end up feeling like I'm wasting time in dungeons. But at least they're good fun. If you can get a few friends to help with either islands or dungeons, you could speed things up considerably, but it's still pretty quick running things solo. Are you going to level up any alts this side of patch 8.1? Will you quest normally, or maybe try out one of these methods? Or are you just waiting for the incursions to level up even faster? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.